Welcome to Los Angeles. Welcome to the Rizzo Run Club podcast. Welcome to Rizzo Run Club, the video podcast. This is the inaugural podcast, the very first podcast. I'm so excited. Thank you. If you don't know me, my name is Rizzo. I live here in Los Angeles, and I run all over the Los Angeles running community. I also run all over the nation. And this summer, I'm headed to Paris for the Olympics to run in those communities. And I'm also running the Berlin Marathon in September 29th.
Great.
I've started this podcast for a few reasons. One is to showcase the Los Angeles running community. It means so much to me. And this community here is just simply incredible. And I just want to invite each guest to come on and talk about the LA running community and what it means to them. And although this is geared towards Los Angeles, wherever you are watching or listening, I hope that you can take today's stories and find ways to connect within your own community wherever you are. And I hope that the stories inspire you to get out and connect with that community. Also, we are here based in Los Angeles, and next March is the 40th running of the Los Angeles Marathon. And I can't tell you how excited I am. I think it's going to be a huge celebration in the city of Los Angeles. And I know from running from community to community here, everyone is talking about the 40th running. So we are going to discuss the 40th running and also the best way to conquer this course, because it is a tough course. And I just would like each guest to talk about their advice how to properly run this course, because we all want to do well next year on the 40th running. Also, something very important to me is as I travel from community to community here in Los Angeles, I have recognized that a lot of runners are having problems paying for registration for LA Marathon. You know, like much of the races across the country and the world, the more you wait, you know, we try and save money, the higher the price gets, right? So you can go to RizzoRunClub.com. I'll put the link here, also in the description. You can go and donate money to help somebody run the LA Marathon. I want to make this race accessible to everyone. I want everyone to participate in this community, in this particular race. Also, if you are someone that needs assistance, you can go to RizzoRunClub.com. You can click on contact, and you can put your name and leave me a message why you will need assistance, and I will do my best to help you based on donations that are coming in. We could talk about that, and I will elaborate more towards the end of this podcast. But without further ado, I have two amazing guests today, and I think it's very fitting for my first episode because they are both from the McCourt Foundation. LA Marathon is put on by the McCourt Foundation. So we'd like to welcome our first guest, Lucie Murray, who is program coordinator with the McCourt Foundation, correct?
Yes.
And I believe the head of the LA Roadrunners, correct?
Program coordinator for the Los Angeles Roadrunners, and also a program coordinator. So I work with our run clubs, ambassador program, legacy runners, and also our youth programs like Students Run LA, 26 Mile, and our Kids Runs.
Yes. Welcome to Rizzo Run Club.
Thank you so much for having us. And
so
thank you
for
having us as the first guest.
Yeah, it's so great. My second guest, also from the McCourt Foundation, who is my coach. I ran with the LA Roadrunners this past year. Had an amazing experience with him. He's one of the smartest people I've met. And we welcome today Coach David Levine.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm supposed to talk? I was just doing background noises. That's all I'm doing here.
Yes. Those were the background noises from Coach Levine. Coach Levine, welcome to Rizzo Run Club, the podcast.
I'm good at going, woohoo. Yeah, that's about it. But thank you. I'm excited. It's your the very first one.
The very first one. And I'm so happy to have you both. It's like It's
I'm very
very
impressed.
fitting. So,
Thank you.
And normally I had this idea that I wanted to like go in some kind of order to talk about, your personal stories, which we will get back to in a second. But I'm so excited about the 40th running of the LA Marathon. So I'll start with you, Lucie. Thoughts, expectations, maybe some surprises you can share with us?
Well, I'm sure you can imagine, even though it's just barely June and the race isn't until March, we're already in full planning mode for the 40th.
Yes.
It is going to be a big deal. We've got a lot of really exciting things planned, working with some of our legacy runners to actually archive and get footage of a lot of as many as possible, medals, T-shirts, posters. So we'll have something special at the expo that incorporates all of that. And then just some other surprises. We really, really are excited to welcome back alumni. So, the LA Marathon has the LA Loyal program, which celebrates people who've run consecutively from, 2 to, or 10 years or 5 years. I think 15 years will also get a special gift this year. But with the 40th, what we really want to do is try to reach back out to the alumni community. So maybe somebody who hasn't run it since 2010 or 1998, but ran it and is maybe curious about coming back or wants to see this is maybe the opportunity to say, you know what, it's been a while. I want to go back.
I love that.
I am an alumnus myself.
Yes.
I haven't been able to run the last few years because I've been working for the event. And unfortunately, that's the only bummer about my job because LA Marathon was always my favorite. But I just think, if we can call back some of our alumni and say, come on back, see where we've come. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I love that because you meet so many people out there and they're like, I haven't run it since, this year or that year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to find some fun ways to celebrate those. Obviously, can't announce anything about that yet, but
Sure.
there's some really fun things in the works.
I think that's the most important thing is knowing that there are fun things coming in the works. So, yeah. Coach Levine, thoughts, expectations next year?
The 40th running
40th.
of the LA Marathon 2025. It's exciting. I remember I just gave you guys a flag that I had in my car that was the 25th running of the LA Marathon. And that seemed like a couple days ago. And so it's kind of exciting thing.
Yeah.
The 40th running. By the way, I want to tell you, I'm so impressed that you have this kind of theatrical, this philanthropic thing you're doing with these people to get them into the LA Marathon who can't afford it. I think that's really extraordinary and good for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The old saying is, all you need is a pair of running shoes and you can run. That is part true,
Yeah.
In a big way it is. We don't require much. We could put on running shoes and go out our front door. But I know myself, I love to race all year round and it does get expensive, right? So I think that there are some people that are having a hard time just getting to that one race a year. And LA Marathon, could get expensive as you wait a little bit. So I figured, there's got to be a way that I can make this race accessible to everyone and do anything that I can do. We can only do our part, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And even running shoes cost more now.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
way more. I remember the LA Marathon and the Road Runners used to be a combination fee. And that fee for both was $95.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long ago
Sure.
that it was, fees for everything, the price of the streets, for renting the streets to go out there and the permit,
Yeah.
everything has been skyrocketing.
Yeah. And even with the Students Run LA program, right? They're given entrance into the race. They're also given a pair of shoes, I believe, or
Yeah.
a couple.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, years ago, I've been around LA Marathon for quite some time. My uncle used to run with Students Run LA. Nike was the official sponsor, and they would
they
give
still
them,
are.
right?
Mhm.
Oh, they still are,
Yeah.
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 And they'd give them all these shoes in the beginning of the the program, but I think now they wait a little bit.
No, they do still give them shoes.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
So they give it to them, I think, a little bit later after the school year starts, but once they've kind of committed to the training, the students do get their shirt and they get their shoes from Nike.
Yeah,
so.
that's so great.
Yeah.
Speaking of LA Marathon, Lucie, how many marathons have you LA marathons have you run?
Oh gosh, I want to say collectively about 6.
Okay.
I started running marathons later in my life.
Yes.
I was not a runner in my early life. I didn't even know what track and field was.
All right.
So I found marathons after I had my daughter. And so marathons, just was something that I was like, I don't even know why people would do that.
Right.
But then I got the bug and, those, yes, I had a pair of running shoes and I was like, wait, what's the next thing? Let me do a marathon. And so I ran my first marathon in 2009.
Okay.
And then quickly got the bug.
Yes.
And I loved it. And so I started running LA, I think in 2010. And so I ran it several times. And then, like I said, when I started working for the McCourt Foundation full time, unfortunately, that was the one race I had to say goodbye to because I loved it. I loved going through downtown LA. That was my favorite part, hills and all. It was just so much fun.
In 2010, that was Stadium to the Sea?
Correct.
Yeah.
It was the first year.
Yeah, first year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A great race. I mean, great course. Yeah.
But I also remember when my daughter was very little and I wasn't a marathoner yet, and it started up at Universal Studios.
Yes.
And I live very close to that area. So we went down, my daughter and my husband and I, we went down, we watched everyone run by, and it took forever for everyone to go by. And finally the end of the pack came and I handed my daughter to my husband. I said, I'm going to run behind them. So I banded it for like 2 miles. And then I got down Highland and realized I had to run home. And the streets were starting to reopen and the trash trucks, the sweepers were coming. So, it was my short-lived, but you know what? Even well before running, I volunteered for the LA Marathon.
Oh, that's great.
Back in the early 90s, I was a volunteer at the water stations
Sure.
at mile 21. And I thought, gosh, these people are crazy. What are they doing? But I was also swept up in the excitement of it. It was so fun handing water,
of course.
to people, especially as they got towards the back of the pack. And
Sure. We still are crazy.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm just one of the of the masses who
you create the craziness.
Yeah.
Coach, you how many you've run, I'm sure, LA marathons?
13, but to add to that comment, I define crazy as being extremely unique, things that normal people would never do. And I'm thankful for being crazy. I'm good with that. I absolutely, because who wants to be the norm? You live longer if you run, you're healthier, you're less risk of illness, all these studies that we're finally getting. And who the heck wants to be normal? I'm good with crazy. Mm-hmm. I'm there.
Yes. Yeah. And Coach, you and I kind of share a similar story because we both proposed to our wives at the LA Marathon, correct?
You did, really?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Was that terrifying?
Yeah. I actually met her in the LA Marathon at mile 13 many years ago.
Wow.
So I decided, later on, many years later, to propose to her at the same spot. So I had to run 13 miles with, a diamond ring in my pack. And it was just, I started the race. I was excited, but then my heart started to race. I was starting to almost pass out from the idea. Oh my God, I'm about to get on my knees and ask her to marry me.
I can relate to this.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
And
did you get on one knee?
So yeah, I did meet her at mile 13, and I, was talking to her. She was oblivious to the idea of what I was going to do. I got on my knee and proposed, and everyone that was running stopped, and there was a banana going crazy. And
banana guy.
The banana guy,
the banana runner.
Banana guy, if you're watching this, thank you. So.
Yeah.
Wait, but did you pause your watch?
Yeah. Of course he did. What are you talking about? Of course.
I love that. I actually didn't, but
Did it auto pause?
I didn't have auto pause.
Oh, geez.
So,
was your knee on a rock? I mean, on a pebble, because this is not easy
Yeah,
for us
it-
men in the middle of the street. I
Yes.
remember that pain really well
Yes.
when I was on one knee.
Yes.
And
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole process took about 10 minutes because my brother and sister-in-law were there hiding, taking pictures. And, it was a celebration, I was like, oh no, now I got to go finish running a marathon. It was the hardest 13 miles after that.
oh,
Because my heart was just not in the race. It was just
Oh, right.
trying
You-
to get to that moment to propose. So
I assume she said yes.
yes, she did. I
She
mean,
didn't
here it
say-
is.
she didn't
Yeah.
say, well, let me think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I got good. I'll see you at the finish line. I'll let you
Yes,
know.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. See what your time is like, right?
Oh, right. If you break 5 hours,
Yes, yeah.
then we'll...
Yes. Your story. You want to share your story?
About getting married
Yes.
at
Yeah.
the...
LA Marathon.
Oh, it was the most terrifying. I thought I was going to be killed. I really know. And there's a reason for this too. It's not just in my head, although, my head likes to imagine things. But back then, it was right after the Boston bombing. So the security of the LA Marathon was even bigger than it is today. And it's pretty big right now.
Yeah.
So they had about 3/4 of a mile of fencing on both sides of the street for between, it was like Montana and the finish line. So it was about 3/4 of a mile. So nobody got into that 3/4 mile shoot to the finish line.
Sure.
There were police armed to the teeth, and they were ready to kill. And
Sure.
they had guns, real
Yes.
police. And not some security guy who's hanging out at the 7-Eleven watching to make sure the winos don't go into the store or something. But so I held, a long story, but I had the ring on my pinky, and I was holding it and my hand is like going numb because I had no more blood in my finger because I was holding onto this thing so tight. And I had run like a mile from Brentwood down Montana, and I got to this point, and I'm breathing heavy, and I'm sure they thought I was some kind of crazed lunatic who came out of nowhere breathing heavy. And I said to the police officers, I said, I want to ask my wife to marry me at the finish line. I don't have a bib number on, but could I run with her? And I showed them the ring, could I run with her to the finish line? And the 3 of them walked away and did not want anything to do with saying yes or no to me. Just didn't want to deal with it. And one young man finally said, yeah, okay, if you run. So my wife comes up like 45 minutes later, and I take off running with her with this ring in my finger. And I hear behind me a police officer on a bike says, hey, that guy didn't have a bib number on. I'm expecting this guy's going to ride me down and do like one of those Western things where you jump off the horse and you tackle the guy into the... This is
Yes.
my future, right? I'm
Right.
about to be killed or shot in the back. One or the other. I know I'm dead right then and there. So I'm running, and they have these people with signs that begin to appear like... I know I'm probably elaborating on this way too long, but... they kind of start to come in on you, kind of like Night of the Living Dead, with these big signs that you don't really read because you're running too fast, but you just see them getting closer and closer. And the signs basically say, get off the course, bandits
Yes.
not allowed.
Yes.
And then they say more hostile things as you get closer to the finish line. And we were running past them, and my wife's friend was with us. So she has a bib number folded up from a different race. I have no bib number on, and then there's my wife who's running the race legitimately, but we're in this area where we're going to be killed,
Yeah.
right? So we're approaching the finish line. There's this one young woman standing right before they were like coming toward us. This woman is dead center right in front of me. She is going to pick me up and throw me over the fence, right? It's like a 6-foot fence. You
Right,
couldn't
right.
just look over it.
Sure.
So I know this. I know this is where my life ends. And we're getting the 3 of us with the woman with the other race's bib number who only ran like 6 miles, me with none, and my wife. And she's looking me straight in the eyes like she's going to beat me to death. And she looks at me, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. And she looks and she says, oh, David, go ahead. And it was somebody who I had known. And so I'm like,
Yes.
talk about your heart beating.
Right.
I'm expecting to die any second. And so we crossed the finish line, and I put my knee on the ground right on a pebble, so I'm feeling severe pain. And there's I sense this giant camera to my left, and I just did not want to look at this thing. And I asked her to marry me, and it's actually on Channel 5, KCOP. We made bigger news than
That's
people
amazing.
who won the marathon, I think, because, at that point, there's nothing going on. It's like, oh, hey, this is interesting. Let's film this. And sure enough, there was this KTLA Channel 5 camera right in my, and it's online somewhere. You can find it.
Sure.
Marathon Goddess gets engaged, something like that.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, also the moral of that story is, beware bandits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah, you'll get killed. I'm warning you, people. You're
unless
gonna be
they know
killed.
you, unless you're Coach David.
You're going to run somebody in, you will die.
I mean, LA Marathon's done a great job of taking the bandits off the course, I feel like, as we...
Because they were killed.
Yeah. Yes.
Now David's starting rumors.
Now,
Yeah.
the PR people back
Yeah,
there,
I know.
the marathon.
Yes.
Hold on now.
We'll edit this part out. So I think I would love to set the record straight. I mean, I've had conversations with, I think, both of you, but I always go to community and everybody says, I'm not running this race until they go back to Stadium to the Sea. But I try and tell everyone the reality is we are never going back in the near future to Stadium to the Sea. This is going to Century City, and this is our race. This is our city. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Everyone has their own opinions about it. They won't run this race anymore, but
I think it's one thing that when I hear that, and I know, look, we had Stadium to the Sea for 10 years, and I think though what makes me a little sad when I hear people get so frustrated and say, I'm never running that race again. And look, I respect that. I respect that. If you don't like the course, you don't like the course. But what I think it fails to remember is that 22 miles of that race are exactly the same, and we go through some pretty amazing communities. Yeah. I mean, how often do you get to run through Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, Chinatown, West Hollywood, in a way that there are no cars, Hollywood Boulevard, there are no cars.
Yes.
You can see this city in a way that you will never see it from a car, or even if you're just running it, on a normal day. If you just ran the course, on a normal day with normal traffic, you're not going to see it like you do when the roads are closed and completely, packed with runners and spectators and water stations and cheer zones and clubs out there. And so I recognize that people are disappointed, and and I just point to the fact we had it for 10 years and it was a really wonderful course. This for now is the course. I'm not there's no plans as of yet to change it back, and it's certainly outside of my
Sure.
my job duty. But I always like to remind people there are still some pretty amazing things at this course, and every course, every marathon, I don't know a single one that doesn't have that spot that you're just like, that area, right?
Yes.
And so we've really tried over the last few years to encourage our clubs and our spectators to really just overpopulate that last 8 miles, so that it is a really exciting out and back. And I think that what's amazing is our clubs have stepped up in a way that we could never have even imagined. It is just wall-to-wall noise and excitement and enthusiasm and and support out there.
Yes.
And I think an out and back kind of that can, for some people they don't like that. I think from a spectator's perspective, it's really exciting, and you can also see sort of who's coming and who's going. And so I personally don't mind an out and back course, just because I like seeing that. I like being, watching the crowd and being like, hey, there's so and so from this run club, or my friend this person, And so, that would be my just reminder, is that it may not be what it was a few years ago, but it's still a really, really special course.
Yeah. Coach?
I agree. I was just thinking about it. There's a big half-mile downhill on Doheny. I think they should put in some rubber, a lot of water, and turn it into a half-mile slip and slide. Wouldn't it be great? In the middle of the marathon, you just this half-mile.
I'll pass that along.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Let them know.
The suggestion box. Yeah.
USA Track and Field may have something to say about it, but screw them. Giant slip and slide. But I think the great reality is we sold out last year, and so there's now a new crop of runners that they're good. They love the course, and I don't know how much incentive there is to go back to whatever there was. When you're selling out, you're selling out.
And look, I would also say, though, we hear it. I mean, we know.
Right.
We hear it. There's just not. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that clouds some of the other really great stuff.
I agree. Yeah. I kind of feel like, this is the flagship race of our city. And Jocelyn, the warrior, she told me at the last LA Marathon that she feels like this event is the only event in Los Angeles that truly brings the LA running community together. And it does, not to discount other races, because everybody does, but she's 100% right. And as I go from club to club, my enthusiasm for LA Marathon is, it's definitely recognizable. I mean, I put it all over my Instagram, the 40th run. I did a countdown to the race.
You have great videos.
I appreciate that.
No, you do.
It's just so much fun to create those. But, everybody is complaining about this race. But yet, I think it's ironic that when we get to mile 16, on your left-hand side is when you see the finish. From that point on, this last race, I could barely hear myself think, because the clubs came out. Right?
Yeah.
And, the clubs came out, and they want the runners to recognize that they're there. They have their tents. They're making noise. They're taking great pride in showing the runners that this is Los Angeles. And I find it ironic that why can't you just put the same pride and run the race? Let's do this. This is our race,
You know who had a lot to do with that? Those clubs showing up? This lady here.
No, I mean, we have an amazing run community in LA. I am amazed by how many clubs are out there and are forming all the time. There's just constantly new groups coming, and they're enthusiastic, and they want to get involved, whether it's with the marathon or the Rose Bowl half or the Santa Monica Classic. They want to get involved, and they want to be there, and they want to support the runners who are out there, whether they're their own club members or, just people who are running by. And I think, it's really, really an incredible community that does exactly that. They just show up.
Yeah, and I feel that, they take a lot of pride on race day. And I just hope that they can set aside their differences and come out and run the race and still have, the club out there to support, their members to support, which I know they're going to do this year.
And they do. And, we keep an eye on, there's an opportunity for people to say which club they're affiliated with when they register. And so we can see how many clubs are represented.
Yes.
And I have been, the last couple of years, we've been putting in the race program, any club that has 5 or more participants, local clubs that have 5 or more participants, we list them in the race program. And that list is it's massive. It's a massive list because, we really, I think there's 2 things, number one, the clubs are bringing people to our races, but also the race is bringing people to the clubs, because
Sure.
then they need someone to train with. They need people to get that support from as
Sure.
they get ready for the start line.
Yeah, I did notice last year too that Valley Runners Los Angeles. This is an example. Chelly, she does such a great job
Yeah.
out there. You did have there was a banner which was part of the LA Marathon. Is that something
Yes.
you're doing?
So, well, actually, Valley Runners, VRLA, and Pacer Nation,
Okay.
so Pasadena,
Yes.
Whittier, and Azusa, both of those clubs, sort of during one of our club leader meetings, identified that they would do Cool and Fit stations, and they would purchase Cool and Fit
Yes.
for their club, and they would spray people.
Yeah.
And so they said, is there any way that you could get us product? So we said, well, why don't we reach out to Cool and Fit? So Cool and Fit provided product this year
Yeah.
for them to use. So the clubs didn't have to pay for their own product. And, we also had it at our aid stations. And as in exchange for that, we, the two clubs set it up, and then we gave them some signage so that we would brand it as sort of our official Cool and Fit stations. So that was just a really neat sort of collaboration, that it wasn't something that we were necessarily going out and saying, like, okay, who can do this? It just identified itself. We made the right calls. We talked to the right people, and boom, it just happened.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
I think that's what's so exciting. And, LA Leggers has been providing volunteers at our late finish line. So after the finish line, naturally has to be torn down at a certain point.
Yes.
Their crew has been coming out and helping us with that late finish line, so that people who are finishing after the finish line officially closes can still get their medal and their
That's
heat
so
sheet
great.
and their bananas and their water and that
So
sort of
great.
thing.
Yeah, so great. Yeah, Coach, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you one. I was at the finish line until about 11:45 on the clock, and then this year, and then I went to a dinner that was like 15 minutes away, and they asked everyone to talk really briefly in this dinner. It was all runners, all people who had just done the LA Marathon, and I said to them, I said, well, for one thing, I was thankful that my wife brought me pants to the dinner, because I showed up, like a runner, and I had pants, for the dinner. But, I said to them, I said, a lot of you think that you're the middle of the pack, you're slow. And I got news for you. I just came from the finish line, and there were people still coming in. You people had all gone home, showered, gotten dressed, came to dinner, drove there, and they're still running out there. So there are a lot of people out there that think they're slow. I'm not really an athlete. And no. You're really good compared, there are people still out there at 12 hours or whatever
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
And those people at the finish line waiting for him, the leggers and the legacy runners.
Legacy runners too, yeah.
They're amazing. They were still there waiting for the people to come to the finish line, give them a medal, write down their finish time so they got an official finish time.
Actually, we have a timing mat there for quite a while.
Yeah.
But then, after that, they'll either write it down or they.
I'm so
can
glad
submit
they
it
do
themselves.
that.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the New York City Marathon many years ago, when Greta Weitz was still alive.
Yeah.
She would win the race because she won every year, right? And she would go to her hotel, and then she'd come down and she would hand out the medals to the people still coming in.
Yeah.
I always thought that was so touching,
They do that at Ironman every
Yeah.
race. I'm so impressed by that.
So amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know, this is a touchy subject, so I just feel like I have to say it, though, is because Los Angeles is a Laker town. It's also a Dodger town. And, I feel like this is something we need to talk about a little bit, but Frank McCourt left a bad taste in everyone's mouth here. And I try and tell people that Frank McCourt actually has nothing to do with the LA Marathon, and it's actually his cousin, I believe.
Brian.
Yeah, Brian. So it's like this, he has nothing to do with this anymore. Like, get over it.
Well, but I will also say Frank McCourt is the one who advocated for Stadium to the Sea. He's the one who made that happen. So, for whatever those feelings are.
Yeah.
He got those cities together.
And I think that's important because I don't think anyone knows this, and
Yeah.
no one's talking about this. Everyone's just too busy saying, it's
Yeah.
Frank McCourt's
yeah.
fault.
Yeah.
But the Dodgers are a different entity from LA Marathon. Yes, maybe he did do something they should not have done with them, but it's amazing that he advocated for that.
He was the one who made it happen.
Yeah.
And yes, now as of 2020, the marathon is now organized by the McCourt Foundation, which is headed up by his cousin.
Yeah, Brian.
Right, and they had a family connection to neurological diseases, which is why that is the primary mission of the McCourt Foundation, is to help cure neurological diseases and also to build a healthier world. So that is now, the marathon is now in the hands of a nonprofit. And so there's just a very different organizational mission from that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. Thank you, Lucie, for saying that. Right, Coach?
Yeah, I think Frank McCourt's downfall was he had just a horrible divorce. I mean, how do you get around that as a human being? I mean,
Sure.
it's just that's where his life took him
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm glad we learned something new today. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
please, if you're considering running the 40th, please sign up. It's going to just be an amazing celebration. But, speaking of LA Marathon, I joined the LA Roadrunners last year. This is Lucie's baby. This is Coach's baby too. So can we talk about next year? And first of all, I don't think a lot of people know that there's actually 3 locations. And then also, maybe you guys want to elaborate on the program, Coach?
Sure. Something I'm kind of proud of, actually, that Lucie had a lot to do with, and so the PR people had a lot to do with. But before the pandemic, we had about 250 members. Post-pandemic, we had about 240 members. That's when we came on board. And last year, as of March 2024, we had, I think it was 847 members at the very end, something very close to that, almost 850 members. So we have been growing exponentially. And part of that growth is we started this group in Griffith Park that had about 120 people showing up every Saturday morning. And we're now starting a group in Balboa Park that
First announcement right there. There's a big announcement there.
Oh, was this?
Yeah,
I spilled the beans.
You spell it's being gently spilled, but yes,
Yeah.
well, that's very exciting.
It's
We're
not
bringing
gently.
in a.
This is just splattering. This is Balboa Park, which is an interesting place. I ran there with the intention of I'm just going to go, and Balboa Park becomes Woodley Park. It becomes Sepulveda Basin and the Lake Sepulveda, not to mention the pond that's in Balboa Park, and it's this really cool area. Not a lot of hills, but there's a dam there you can kind of run up to. And we're going to start a Sunday group there. So people suddenly, you can't make Saturday, you can go out to Balboa Park, which is right kind of off the 101 and the 405, just northwest of that.
Yeah, what
And
city is that?
I have no
It's
clue.
Encino. It's considered
Encino, yeah,
Encino
Encino.
or Reseda. It's kind of right over there. Yeah, not the Balboa Park in San Diego.
Yes.
That would be a different,
Yeah,
Oh,
right?
no.
Yeah.
different location.
Way too much of a drive.
Yeah.
No.
So then there will be 4 locations.
No,
now it's 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, we are not going to be able to keep Newport Beach
Okay.
going.
For now.
That was a 2. Yeah,
I know.
Coach, David's got us. He's got a plan to have us take over
Yes.
all of Southern California. But for now, since he's still only one person. We haven't figured out how to clone him yet.
Yeah.
We unfortunately Newport Beach was a great location, but it was not quite getting the numbers that and we felt like an LA based, San Fernando Valley based location would really meet the needs of some of our
Yes.
more local runners who maybe can't get to the west side, because even though it's only 12, 15 miles, it can
Yeah.
feel like a
course.
marathon,
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of traffic. So.
Balboa was Lucie's idea, and I thought it was just a great idea.
Yeah, it's so
and
great.
I love Newport Beach. I was there every Sunday.
Yeah.
And eventually, event. She may kill me.
Another surprise.
We may, yeah, that'll be a surprise to me. I'll be dead, but yeah, I think we'll hopefully go back there someday in the future.
Yeah, yeah. So is there between the three groups? Last year we had Newport, Griffith Park, and Santa Monica. Was Santa Monica the most members?
Yeah, and I think that's because Santa Monica is kind of the flagship. It was
Yeah,
the original
the original,
location.
yeah.
Griffith Park was new last year. And, we thought it would do well. Griffith Park is obviously a running hub for the LA running community. Yes. But there are several groups over there. And so we thought, okay, we might get, a nice handful of people. And it just immediately took off. It obviously met a need of people on that side of town, and just really, I think we had consistently over 100 to 150 people sign, at that location.
That's a lot.
And that was brand new last year. And we didn't have. There's not as big an infrastructure as Santa Monica because there's a bigger history there. Although we're working on that for this year to make it just a better, get a few more pace leaders in there, and just to build the infrastructure a little bit better, because it was obviously meeting the need of a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's exciting to add a Sunday group for those people who can't come on Saturdays for whatever reason, or maybe they can't come to their regular group on Saturday, so now they have a Sunday option that's close by. That's not I have to drive really far to get there. It's a pretty convenient drive.
Yeah. And with the 40th running coming up this year, I'm assuming that we're anticipating a lot more people showing up and signing up.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean,
I would think so. I mean, on the other hand, you can't get better than sold out, which we had last year. I mean, so, but I would think.
Interestingly, though, last year's marathon, about 40% of the runners they self-reported first-time marathon.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that, this running boom is very real. And I don't know if that's, sort of the byproduct of, the pandemic and the shutdowns and people starting to run and then finding it and now being sort of ready for marathon distances, or what's happening. But we are definitely in that phase. And I think so many of our run clubs locally do a great job training people for the marathon. And LA Roadrunners, we fill a slightly different niche just because we are very specific to the LA Marathon. Everybody, barring maybe, a handful, if they're in LA Roadrunners, they are training for Rose Bowl Half Marathon and then LA Marathon. And so it's a very, very specific training. Plus, we have some perks that, just because of our affiliation with the McCourt Foundation, we have access to, to sort of like the locker rooms at the Rose Bowl Stadium on race morning. We have an access to a special meetup inside Dodger Stadium on race morning. We have some pretty special perks that, it just, that I think that, and we do get people who sign up not to do the training, but to get those perks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing.
So the moral of the story is sign up soon or you'll be left on the side of the road. That's
David, you're very gloom and doom today.
Yeah,
very.
Yeah. You're going to die. You sign up soon. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, you write
I just like drama. That's really my thing.
That is true.
You write the programs for the training plans.
Well, I do. I write the schedules, and the one thing I think about schedules is I could create a different schedule for every human being that's at the Roadrunners, all 800 whatever there are, and because people have different things that they do during the week, and so you can't really get locked. I've always said the one size fits all schedule does not fit all, and for those it fits, it doesn't fit for long.
Right.
And it's true. And the better schedule, I got to tell you, has to do really with just total volume of high intensity work at about 15 to 20% or less, and volume of low intensity work to build endurance. That's really where you build your endurance. Most people don't understand that. I won't bore you with the science now. You can find that on our YouTube channel. And I do make all of our pace leaders listen to a near 2-hour lecture, which even today I was talking to people new. We have 6 newcomers right now, more coming, pace leading. And we refer to this as hazing, and that they have to listen to that 2-hour video of me talking about science at their own home. They can turn it on and off, but they have to listen to this. And if they survive, they get to be a pace leader.
Yeah, that's.
If they don't,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're out of luck. But so yeah, the science really is about volume, and you have to be able to change the schedule to meet your own needs.
Yeah.
Just going 20 miles has nothing to do with better training.
Sure.
And I would actually recommend don't go 20 miles, but take the extra miles that you do beyond 16 and put them during the week, like Monday at a mile and Tuesday at a mile, and and only build the 16 on the weekend because it takes too long to recover from a 20 miler. And the only reason the schedules are the way they are is with a 20 miler is because people generally roadrunners don't have the time midweek to add those extra miles for each day.
Yeah.
They barely have the time to do the volume during the week, so they load it onto the weekend.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with my own schedules, is I want all people to quit their jobs.
Yeah, that's the dream. Yeah.
If you have to be homeless, you're good. And just run midweek, get in that
the
volume.
Dream. That's the dream.
That's, the guys in the 70s that were winning all the races, Boston, New York, Frank Shorter, all those guys.
Yeah.
Bill, what's his
Bill Rogers.
Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
They would run in the morning. They would run in the evening. They didn't have a clue what the heck they were talking about or doing. They just had no idea. There was no science. There was no books.
Back then, yeah.
And occasionally they'd even call each other and say, hey, in the afternoon, what are you doing? I'm not doing anything. And they'd run in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And they would race each other like the last fifth of their run. So instead of doing like track work and all of this extrapolated stuff that we calculate in our schedules, that's at the Roadrunner schedule, they would just race each other the last fifth of their run, which turned out to be 20%, hence the term 80-20. 80 low heart rate, 20% high heart rate. That's exactly what they would do. They'd build up to 100 miles a week. Boom, they were winning New York, Boston, all those other races. No clue what the hell they were doing.
I think what I appreciated about the LA Roadrunners last year is I actually went to go see Julie, Marathon Goddess, right? And
I know her.
You do know her, yeah. And Cynthia, she runs with G4. And I was actually just kind of like blown away by the education that you were giving to the runners. It's not often, excuse me, that you go into a running club and they're actually talking about, the science of running in it. And I found it so fascinating. And I came back again and again, and Coach, you just kept like educating the runners.
You want to watch the pace leader video?
Yeah, but I don't want to be a pace leader.
No, it's okay. You can, if
But
you
yes, I do want to watch
torture
it.
as hell.
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah.
I think you hit it, and that's when I was talking about like the difference between LA Roadrunners, and again, I mean, so many clubs are doing such an amazing job. I think David also just brings such a wealth of understanding about not just marathoning and running, but about the LA Marathon, and was even a pace leader himself many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was an amazing experience. So, I kept coming back, and Coach, you kept telling me, Rizzo, just keep coming back, just keep coming. I'm like, I need to pay Lucie.
She'll start coming after you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I eventually emailed Lucie. I'm like, Lucie, here's my money. It's the only right thing to do. But, having access to the Rose Bowl was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Dodger Stadium on race morning, the private bathrooms were amazing. So,
I mean, we runners, we'll pretty much, a concrete bathroom.
Yeah,
that's
amazing.
That's the key, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you got to thank Frank McCourt. because we still own, the McCourt Foundation owns the parking lot.
That's true.
Which is why we can do the 2 weeks before the LA Marathon. We invite everyone to the parking lot.
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
start on the start line and run the first 6 miles, and the streets are all open and everything. But that's why we're able to start in the parking lot on the starting line.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank McCourt.
See, another thank you to Frank
There you
McCourt.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's going to be an amazing program this year. I'm really looking forward to it. So, any surprises with the LA Roadrunner program, or
If I told you, she'd kill me. So
yeah. I mean, you're spilling everything today, so that's why I'm asking you.
David surprising me with 3 new locations without telling me.
no, not only 3. Anyway.
No, I think I think a lot of the Roadrunners programs, like I said, we'll have the new location in Balboa Park in Encino, which I think will really help people who can't get to those other locations. And there will be, with the 40th, as I said, because the marathon is doing a lot of celebrating alumni and whatnot, where part of that celebration is celebrating our communities that make up the marathon.
Right.
And one of those communities is LA Roadrunners, and it's been around almost as long as the marathon. And so we will be working on some things to sort of bring that history into Expo and race weekend.
Yeah. And Volvo's now gone from their program.
Yes, we are now powered by Kia.
Kia.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love
so expect some fun things there, and there's some other things in the works that, and again, we're pretty early stages, so but some other fun things that as we start the planning process, we'll be able to start announcing.
And when are we expected to start the program?
We kick off we typically kick off right after Santa Monica Classic. The weekend after that will be the orientation weekend.
14th and 15th.
Thank you. And then the official kickoff is the following weekend. So that's the 21st and 22nd.
Great.
So that's the official kickoff. We will be opening registration in June, and our early bird pricing is through June. But then, I think a lot of people think, oh, if I don't come and join in September, I can't join. You can join anytime. We have people who literally join when the mileage gets up, and they go, I can't do these long runs by myself anymore. I want a supported run. I want pace leaders. I need the help. And so we get people who sign up in December, January.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We had people sign up, I think, the last week or two just for the perks, didn't we?
We did have a couple of people who
Not
signed
many.
up. Yeah. People can join anytime.
Yeah. And I think 40% last year was first timers, right? Which
For
is
the marathon,
amazing.
yeah.
So I know going from club to club, people are asking me like, well, where do you train? Like, this is the perfect place to train. Like, you run with everyone who's got the goal of the LA Marathon. You become friends with everybody, and then the mileage is very easy to do with a group of people.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that if you're watching, you come out and join one of the locations. It's going to be amazing.
And you can come and try it. Try it out for a weekend. See if you like it. You just reach out through the website, just so we know you're coming, or not through the website, but through the LARR at McCourtFoundation.org. That gets to me, and then at least we know you're coming. But try it out.
Check it out.
Yeah. I had a question. What is the capacity for LA Marathon? It did sell out last year?
We sold out around 26,000.
Yeah.
There's not. It's not really. We don't have a sort of a capacity number.
Yeah.
But that's where we were last year.
Like these races, Chicago, New York, they're pulling 40, 50,000. Do you foresee maybe LA Marathon reaching that someday?
They'd have to change the course. The permits in LA are not so easy to get.
Right.
You can only put so many people on a course for so long, and there's all these logistics and things that stand in the way. I don't see that. I just because the city of LA is, the different municipalities, I don't think would allow for it.
Yeah.
I know that's sad, but yeah.
I guess the question is, are they trying to eventually get to that capacity, or are they comfortable being, a 26,000?
I think any business would love to grow.
Yeah.
That's the nature of any business, especially a charity. Let's make as much money for a charity, neurology, as we can, which is what they study. I can't imagine it. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I think they'd have to move it to, the desert or something, where no one would want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, LA City, it's a tough cookie.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think, Lucie, you're doing an amazing job, reaching out and working with all the running clubs. I feel like that is like the foundation of our race in a sense, because these running clubs are preparing everybody or convincing them, hey, you know what, you just ran 2 miles today. You can run a marathon. Yep. And this is our city. This is the LA Marathon. So I hope you continue, to boots on the ground and keep, pushing that. And
that's my goal for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're doing a wonderful job. And Coach, I mean, you've just been an inspiration to me. I've been running for over 40 years, and it's rare that I meet somebody that has my attention. So I thank you for, everything you provide, not only to the runners, but what you did for me last year. I was able to follow your program. And I know a lot of people thought it was silly that at the last 3 miles you told everyone they were going to drop to a super fast pace, and I was able to do that with ease. So, thank you for that.
Hopefully not super fast pace, but no, that's very kind of you to say that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, do you have anything you'd like to say to the city of Los Angeles, or just anyone listening across the country and the world?
Boy, I confess my mind has completely gone blank. I'm sure, as soon as we get off the air, it's like I'll think of 20 things that I could have said that were brilliant. And man, I'm a blur right now. Well, Lucie, do you have any? And then, I'll think about it.
I think that what's really exciting to me is that we're seeing a rise in, the sort of this running boom is bringing in new runners, and we're seeing a lot of people embracing slow running, right? So you don't have to be super competitive unless you want to be. And, LA Roadrunners has super fast runners who are running, 3-hour marathons. Yeah. And we have run walkers who are, out there, putting in an amazing effort, and it's taking them, 5 to 7 hours to finish. But we're seeing a boom in this running industry, and a lot of people who are slow runners, or it's sort of this hashtag slow running. And I think that's really exciting because it tells me that our sport is accessible, and that we're making it accessible by having run clubs that focus on everybody's pace. Yeah. And yes, there are different vibes and personalities of every run club, and you might go to one that you're like, oh my gosh, they're all so fast, or you might go to one and say, everybody's just having way too good of a time, I want to kind of sweat a little bit more. Right. But I think what's really exciting is there's something for everybody in the running community. And maybe if you go to a club and it's not quite for you, that doesn't mean that the next one isn't. And if you go to, if you're not ready for the marathon, do a 5K. We have 5Ks associated with all of our events. If you're not ready for, if you're like, okay, I want a little more, 10K, half marathon. Like, there's so many options. If you don't want to run a marathon just to get to the finish line, run it for charity. We have, the LA Marathon works with, I want to say 90 different nonprofits that have raised millions of dollars for their charities by having people run the marathon in their honor. Everything from, animal rescue to neurological diseases to, women's issues, you name it. There are so many charities that are out there representing, and you don't have to be, so you can get involved in so many different ways and make it meaningful. You can go for a PR, you can go for, I'm just going to have a good time. There's just so many ways to run. And I think what I love about the LA running community is there's just so much to support for doing it in a variety of different ways.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Yay, LA.
Yes.
Yay. I did actually think of something.
Let's hear it.
I was running this with some people this afternoon, and by the way, my arm is now locked in this position permanently. I was running with some people this morning, and I had this idea, this story that I'm going to tell at the Rose Bowl. Before the Rose Bowl in the locker room, we do these inspirational things. But the moral of the story is, and I leave you with this idea, is that you never know what you can do until after you've done it. You never know what you can do until after you've done it.
Yeah.
You don't.
I love that.
That's
yeah.
great.
LA Marathon.
Yeah. And just to elaborate a little bit what you were saying, Lucie, is I was fascinated last year with the LA Roadrunner program. I would go super early and throw the drone up and, capture stuff. And Coach was out there. There are so many walkers also walking with this program. So if you are a walker, you are so invited to come out and walk the LA Marathon as well.
Yeah. And people, think, oh, I don't run, so I can't run them. I can't do the marathon. Well, yeah, you can. We have so many walkers out there.
Yeah.
And you're right. And a lot of them are supported through the LA Roadrunners.
Yes.
And I'm really, I think both David and I are really proud of that we really can say we're a very inclusive club, that we do, have support for all paces.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we actually had walkers coming in like 9 hours on the clock.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we did, for the first time in the history of the LA Marathon, have a 2:55 pace leader who came in at 2:54:01. And I said, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, he's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm so humbled. My first episode. So glad that you were here to share some stories, and hopefully we inspired some people to think about coming out and running, volunteering, walking, anything, just to be a part of the celebration next year in Los Angeles is just going to be incredible.
Congratulations.
So, thank you so much for being here. And again, if you would like to donate to help make this race accessible for runners in the LA running community, you could go to RizzoRunClub.com. There are several donations that you can make, anywhere from $5 up to $1,000. And 100% of the proceeds will go to help a runner. And you gave me an idea, maybe for shoes too. And also, if you are someone that needs assistance, you can go to RizzoRunClub.com, click on contact, put your name, and send me a message. Let me know why you would need assistance. If you're going to Vegas next weekend and you're asking for assistance, this is probably not the program for you. So I would hope that you would respect that. Also, if you know somebody and would like to nominate somebody, you can get on, send me a message. And I would just like to reinforce that any correspondence that goes on between you and I will be 100% confidential. Nobody will ever know that we helped you out in any way, unless you would like to get on here and tell your story. But
did you say it was tax deductible?
It is not tax deductible. I'm working on a nonprofit.
There you go.
And that is the goal. Moving forward. But
great.
Again, if you'd like to participate in any way, RizzoRunClub.com. But I think I'm going to end it on that.
God,
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Rizzo. Thanks for
Wow,
having us.
we're the first.
You're the first.
Wow. Wait.
Put it down.
Well, let me move my arm now. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
This episode was self-produced and filmed in Venice, California. Special thanks to Lauren Hiltzer and his production company, HK Corp, for allowing us to film at their office. The best way to support this channel is to subscribe and like. If you are interested in sponsoring an episode, you can contact me at RizzoRunClub.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.